Shalom, family, and welcome back to the Semitic Jew channel, where we read scripture with context, logic, and historical honesty, and not replacement theology with a microphone. Today, we're in the book of Hebrews, and let me say this up front. Hebrews is probably the most misused book in the New Testament. People read Hebrews and say, see, Old Covenant gone, Israel replaced. Now, case closed. But here's the problem. Hebrews only makes sense if the Israelites are still the audience. Let's break it down. So first off, Hebrews assumes you already know the covenant. That's Hebrews chapter 1. Hebrews opens without explaining who Abraham is, what the law is, who Moses is, what the priesthood is. You have to ask yourself a critical question. Why would it do that? Because the audience already knows. This is not a missionary letter. This is in-house instruction for Israelites. Paul doesn't teach basics. He's building on the basics. The law was our schoolmaster to lead us to Christ. That is what he's doing. Hebrews is not saying, look, forget what you know. It's saying, let's understand what we know and put it in its proper context. Secondly, the Messiah. The Messiah is compared, not replaced. That's Hebrews chapter 1 through 3. So Hebrews compares the Messiah to angels, to Moses, to Joshua, and people here greater than and assume abolishes. That's not how comparison works. Being greater than Moses doesn't erase Moses. Being greater than angels does not erase angels. Hebrews is establishing authority and not cancellation. Think of it like this. A Supreme Court justice doesn't abolish the Constitution. They interpret it correctly. It's the same idea. Thirdly, Hebrews warns Israelites not to repeat history. That's Hebrews chapter 3 through 4. Hebrews constantly references things like the wilderness, hardened hearts, disobedience, missed rest. And you have to ask yourself the critical question again, why would it do that? Because the Israelites have a track record of doing those things. Hebrews is basically saying, please don't do it again. This is not anti-Israelite rhetoric. This is Israel talking to Israel. Now, fourthly, the priesthood argument is about function, not ethnicity. That's Hebrews chapter 5 through 7. So this section scares people, right? Melchizedek, new priesthood, different order. But Hebrews is not erasing Israelite identity. It's explaining how mediation works, not who Israel is. So the Messiah functions as high priest because earthly priesthood was restricted. Temple access was limited, and the Israelites are scattered. So Hebrews explains how covenant access continues and can continue without having a temple. That's continuity. It's not replacement. Number 5, new covenant. New covenant does not mean new people. That's Hebrews chapter 8. This is where people really trip me out. Hebrews quotes Jeremiah 31 directly. And Jeremiah says that the new covenant is made with the house of Israel, the house of Judah, not a building, not foreign nations, and not a replacement body. So if Hebrews meant a new people, quoting Jeremiah would be a terrible choice for religious people, right? So Hebrews proves that the covenant is renewed, not reassigned. The sixth point, sacrificial language is about access, not abolition. That's Hebrews chapter 9 through 10. So Hebrews explains that the Messiah's sacrifice, what does it do? It removes condemnation. It restores our access to God, and it cleanses our consciousness, our conscience. It does not say that God's law was evil or that Israel was wrong or that obedience is irrelevant or that God set us up to fail. Hebrews argues against repetition or repetitive condemnation, not covenant obedience. So think less scrap the system and more fix what is broken. The seventh point, Hebrews 11. This is Israel's hall of faith. This is our encouragement. And yes, all of them were Israelites. Hebrews chapter 11 lists Abel, Noah, Abraham, Moses, and Israel. So I know I'm going to get a lot of pushback. Oh, Abel wasn't an Israelite. It's the line that is the concern. So notice who's missing. Converts, Gentile converts, church fathers, new religions. Hebrews anchors faith in Israel's historical continuity. Faith is not an innovation or a movement or something like manifest destiny. It's about endurance. The eighth point, the final warning. The final warning is don't drift. That is Hebrews chapter 12 through 13. So Hebrews ends with a warning. Don't drift. Don't fall away. Don't trade covenant clarification for comfort in tradition. This book is written to Israelites under pressure who are tempted to assimilate into the culture that they belong to, attempted to abandon discipline and to relax culturally without keeping God's commandments. Moreover, to retreat into systems that feel safer, that comfort us. Hebrews says, look, endure in the covenant that God made with your forefathers. Stay rooted in it and finish strong. Here's the closing message. The book of Hebrews teaches Israelites that the Messiah clarifies the covenant for us. He does not erase it. The authority is refined. It's not replaced. Faithfulness means that we endure, that we not try to innovate something. So Hebrews is not Christianity's new birth or Christianity rebirth or a birth certificate for Christianity. It is Israel being reminded that God finishes what he starts. This is very important. Now, if this breakdown brought clarification to your understanding on the book of Hebrews, please like, share, and subscribe. In the next episode, I'm going to look at the book of James. James deals with things like our faith, how we should be disciplined, practical covenant living, and most importantly, what people call works. Shalom, family, and I'll see you in the next one.